Hey guys, so I'm gonna do a quick two-part YouTube video here. A two-pronged attack. This I'm loading in here to Jensen's firing range. This is Squad. This is my favorite game. This game is the reason I joined the PC Master Race. So first, I'm going to set up some vehicles here while I talk about lightsabers. Star Wars did laser swords wrong. I know that sounds crazy, but let me put it this way. Since I'm supposed to be talking about science fiction stuff, I'm going to keep talking about Star Wars, even though I'm playing Squad. A lightsaber, canonly, is, a laser sword, they call it, is magnetically manipulated plasma, right? It is a blade of plasma. And that is extremely hot. To get, the temperatures required to do that, to have a constant, a literal blade of plasma. The temperatures required to do that are extreme. And, to the point where if you actually did that and made such a thing, it would be so hot that, if you got within 10 inches, a foot of it, roughly speaking, your clothes would burst into flames because it is so hot. So all these Jedi and their big fancy flowing robes holding lightsabers, their clothes should catch on fire because that plasma is so damn hot. And another example, if someone in the film, is stabbed with a lightsaber, it makes a neat little cauterized hole. It doesn't even bleed. It is a civilized weapon for a civilized age. However, if you were to actually stab someone with something that was actually that hot, it would flash boil their flesh. Yes, human skin, flesh and bone, boiling, because it's that hot. Because it's such a confined, concentrated, focused spot that would be boiling, you would be and it goes all the way through. Like when Qui-Gon Jinn was stabbed in the gut. So now his insides are boiling. And the heat is going to spread quickly. So, what that would cause... Excuse me, my alarm's going off here. What would actually be the effect of that, being stabbed with a lightsaber, your insides are going to boil. And when that happens, they turn to gas, right? But that gas pressure has to have somewhere to go. And it'll be inside of your body at that time. So you would explode from gas pressure from your own flesh boiling inside of your body. Because plasma is that hot. How crazy is that? So, lightsabers are portrayed incorrectly in Star Wars. And maybe that's a good thing? I mean, it'd be real messy if people exploded every time they got cut or stabbed with a lightsaber. However, if you're so inclined, that might be cooler, right? I mean, in theory, that could be more gnarly looking, if you're so inclined. So, there is my brief sci-fi rant for the day. Now, I'm going to start part 2 of this video. I'm going to run way back down there to the range, change teams from the US team. See here, I'm on the US team. I've got my M4 and my M9. And I'm going to switch to the Russian HAT kit. HAT meaning heavy anti-tank, HAT. There's also an LAT, LAT kit, light anti-tank. All teams have them, but I'm specifically familiar with the Russian version. I blame that on being a child of the Cold War and studying Russian equipment, the whole know your enemy kind of thing. Anyway, there are several people that I have played with in squad that, while are, reasonable players with many hours into the game, and they understand the intricacies of this simulator game, they refuse to use the Russian launcher kit, the LAT or the HAT. They take one look at the complicated reticle and say, nope. So I'm going to explain to people how to use said reticle. Wrong menu. There we go. Teams. Join team. Yes, changing teams. Alright. There. See, now I'm on the Russian team. I got my AK. Here's the infamous RPG. The insurgent and militia teams also get the RPG7. This is the RPG7 V2. It weighs roughly 15 pounds and is identical to the RPG7, except for now it has this big ugly optic on it. This is the PGO scope, which provides 2.7 magnification, which I think is a huge improvement over the iron sights that originally came on the RPG. So, this optic scares people because of its big complicated reticle. I'm going to change rockets here. Look at that. Here, I'll point skyward so you can see this. This is complicated and imposing because it is two reticles superimposed on each other. While the LAT kit is going to get just the regular heat, the high explosive anti-tank round like I currently have loaded, and they will also get 2 of these fragmentation rounds, which don't do any damage to vehicles at all, but are fantastic anti-infantry weapons. And, leave it to the Russians, these 2 rockets, the frag rockets and the high explosive rockets, use the same portion of the reticle. The heat rocket, like I just loaded, weighs roughly 7 pounds, and the frag rockets weigh about 5 pounds each. The Russians changed the payload of the rocket, not the warhead. Well, the warhead obviously changed too, but the modified the propellant in order to keep the same trajectory. So you can use the same bit of the reticle. So for the frag rounds and the heat rounds, you'll use what I call the top half of the reticle, even though they're completely superimposed on each other. So this large plus sign here at the top of the reticle is your 0 mark for 50 meters, where point of aim matches point of impact. The smaller crosshair, the little plus sign, is the 100 meter point of aim, point of impact mark. So that destroyed vehicle there at 100 meters, I could shoot it and just like that, put the rocket between the front tires. The marks on the left side are for the extended ranges using the heat and fragmentation rounds, where the 2, 3, 4, and 500 meter marks are on the left side. See, the M indicates meters. Now, the biggest problem that I've seen people have when running anti-tank kits, whether it's a lat or a hat, is being able to determine how far away their target is. That's what I was doing earlier. See, I parked that tank and that MRAP way down there. And of course, this is on a range, so we have marked gradients. So the tank is at the 200 meter mark and the MRAP is down there at the 400 meter mark. But there is a secret to this, and a big reason why I think the RPG7 V2 with this PGO optic is better than the other RPG with iron sights, is because it has the rangefinder built into the optic. And you see this slant curve on the lower right side of the reticle with the 2.7 mark there. I believe it's actually a 2,7, but that's because it's Russian. The 2.7 mark means it's 2.7 meters from the bottom line to the top line, which the Russians' main enemy, the Abrams tank, like I have parked backwards down there, is 2.7 meters tall. So, if you put that line under the tracks, just like that, you can now see, the turret hits that 2.7 mark. And of roughly the same height down there, the MRAP, if I put the line under the wheels, and now you see the 4 mark. Hold still. Sorry. This is a heavy rocket launcher. I'm trying to hold it steady. Here, I'm going to take a knee, make that a little easier. Now, so you see it's at the 400 meter mark. Well, there is another trick to that. If you are using the other Russian lat kit, I'll go show you. Let me run back to the ammo crate down here. If you're using the other Russian lat kit, or if you're on the insurgent team and have the older RPG7 without the optic, nope, wrong menu. See, this has, the other Russian lat kit has the RPG26, which is basically the Russian equivalent of the Law. It does not have an optic either, even though this lat loadout is the exact same as the current hat loadout that I have, without being equipped with this heavy tandem round, which is about 9.5 pounds, and I'll get to that. That's a different bit. Anyway, back to the heat. Here's my 7-pound rocket. The other trick, most of the lat kits will come with binoculars, which have their own built-in rangefinder. You see at the bottom of the reticle where it says 1,7, which is Russian for 1.7 meters. And that's roughly how tall a vehicle is if you don't include the height of the turret. You see, now you can tell the Abrams, without the turret included, is at the 200 meter mark. And if we go down to the MRAP, without the height of the turret, it's about 400 meters. Maybe 350. But maybe the MRAP's a little more than 2.7 meters tall. I mean, they do have a lot of ground clearance. Look at that. So, back to the RPG. Or, it works with any rocket launcher, because that rangefinder reticle is in all the binoculars. So if you have a launcher that is not the RPG7 V2 with this rangefinder reticle built into the optic, you can use the binoculars to estimate the range and then switch back to your launcher. The main goal of a man-portable anti-tank weapon is to disable the vehicle, to prevent it from moving. That way, either you have time to reload and make a second hit to destroy the vehicle, or someone else can finish it off, or a friendly vehicle can move in and do that work for you. Most of the time, I mean, as a regular lat, you only get one anti-tank round, this heat round that I currently have loaded. So, to illustrate my point, we range find. We know that MRAP now is down there at 400 meters. So I'm going to skip the 50, 100, 200, and 300 meter marks and go all the way to 400 meters, which is this crosshair here. And I'm trying to disable the vehicle Crouch to stable my aim a little bit. And I'm trying to disable this vehicle, so I'm going to put my RPG round, and put this heat round right through the grill into the engine block. 400 meters. It was pretty close. Front end hit, it might still disable them. Anyway, either way, the guys in that MRAP are now scared as hell, and they're going to disembark and run away, because MRAPs have very little armor. So now I'm going to load this frag round and fire again to take out the guys that disembarked from the vehicle. Boom, just like that. Fortunately, I get 2 of these frag rounds, and they work fantastic. I love them. Now, I'm going to go back to the big, heavy 9.5 pound tandem round. This is why this is the heavy anti-tank kit. Because this is the mother of all Russian rockets. And this uses the other half of the reticle that makes it look scary and complicated. You see roughly the 300 meter mark when loaded with the normal high explosive or fragmentation rounds. Firing from this spot would be a 300 meter shot. You see how it's got a double line there? So let me go back to the tandem round, which is called tandem because it's 2 warheads in one. See, the small warhead in the front is designed to actually pop a hole in the armor so the larger main warhead can penetrate through the armor and damage the inside of the vehicle. So that double line there at the 300 meter mark is the 50 meter mark for this tandem round. And the horizontal line under the 500 meter mark. See right there that I now have aimed at the tank. That crosshair is the 100 meter mark. And then you see further down with the 1,5, that's the 150, and way down at the bottom is 200 meters. And between you and me, if I cradle the vehicle in the bottom of the optic like that, I've had decent luck making hits at 275, 300-ish meters, just cradling the target with the bottom of the optic like that. I don't recommend doing that unless A, you waste a lot of your time on the range like me learning how to do that, or B, you're sitting right next to an ammo crate and can quickly reload from a fob that has lots of ammo, because these tandem rounds cost 80 ammo points each to reload, whereas the high explosive rounds that I don't have any more of are 40 ammo each, and these fragmentation rounds, like I'm loading now, are only 30 ammo each. So let me go back to the tandem round. So we know that Abrams tank is parked down there at 200 meters. And he's coming to help the crew of the MRAP that, I shot the MRAP and then shot the crew. And like I was saying, you always want to shoot to disable. Well, the back end of the Abrams here, see that grill? That's the exhaust for its big turbine engine. So I'm going to put this tandem round right into that exhaust port. I'm going to aim a little high just for good measure, because tandem rounds seem to do that. Boom. Look at that curve, look at that flat top. You see that big arcing explosion? That is an engine hit. That is now a disabled vehicle. They can't do anything. They can't move. So the crew's going to have to get out and work on the vehicle. They're going to have to repair the engine in order to move again. And I still have a second fragmentation rocket. But we're still shooting at a 200 meter target. So now remember, we got to use the other half of the reticle. So 200 meters with the heat and frag rockets, with a different trajectory, is going to be at this mark here. So now the crew is dismounted, and I'm going to put this rocket into the dirt right next to the tank where they dismounted. Boom. Takes out the crew, and now I have a disabled tank. And as a hat, I have done my job very well by taking both of these vehicles out of the game. Now, that isn't even the entire reticle. Let me finish. this big lateral left and right. Wow, I can't talk. Sorry, this is early in the morning for me. This big lateral left and right wings that almost looks like an old school radar array is actually a speed compensation reticle. So let's say this tank is moving. It is driving from left to right. This one mark here, I'm going to use one of these other vehicles since this is actually facing broadside to me. Right over here. So let's say I'm shooting at this vehicle that's already been destroyed, but for argument's sake, it's moving and I'm going to shoot it. To hit a moving target, you use these big wings to lead it. You know, I want to put my rocket, you know, like I said earlier, right between those front tires to try and disable the vehicle. So, using this smaller crosshair for the 100-meter range, and then if it's moving pretty fast, let's say 40 kilometers an hour, that's what this 4 mark is for. So I'm going to use the 4 there, boop, like that. Or if he's going much slower, he's only driving at 10 kilometers an hour, I'm going to line up the 1 mark where I want to hit, like that. It's usually pretty hard to estimate a vehicle's speed, especially if he's, you know, like that MRAP down there at 400 meters. So then, you know, I generalize it. You use the 1, you know, left or right, if he's moving just a little bit, or, you know, 3 or 4 if he's moving pretty fast, you know, 5 if he's, you know, on a paved road and moving full speed. But, you know, like I was saying earlier with ammo cost, and you only carry 1 shot, so, you know, be careful. Don't miss. Do your mental math, do the range finding, do the speed compensation, and make sure your shots hit, because it's expensive to reload this thing. See, now that I've shot all 4 of my rockets, there's the 2 frag rockets, heat rocket, and the tandem rocket. That's 180 ammo cost right there, just to reload that. That's more than some entire kits. Oh, I'm gonna bang my shin on that trailer mount there. Anyway, you guys get my point. If you're shooting at a tank like I did earlier, let me load another tandem round, especially on the Abrams, that's why I'm using that as an example. Let me go back to my 200-meter mark. Now that he's stationary and the crew's disabled, if you remember that, I'm going to aim for the back of the turret, because that's where the Abrams keeps its ammo rack. And the ammo rack, it might not disable the vehicle, but it takes a long time to repair. Boom. Look at that nice big explosion. Anyway, so, you know, I've reloaded, I came back, I hit the vehicle a second time. Let's say the US Team Infantry moves in and kills me or forces me to leave, and they recover the Abrams. The crew will be able to repair the engine in the field and drive it back to their main base. But now that I've hit the ammo rack of the tank, when they get back to their main base, it's going to take a solid 5 to 10 minutes to repair that ammo rack at a repair station. Plus, depending on where you are on the map, there could be 5 to 10 minutes of driving in each direction just to get back to main base and the repair station. That's half an hour you've taken their main battle tank out of the game. And that's just you as one guy with a rifle and boots on the ground. So that's how you do your job as a lat. I'm going to cut this short before it gets any longer. Thanks for your time. You know, drop a like, come play squad because I love squad. Subscribe if you can. You guys are fantastic.